Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sunday Scrub Club Scraps. This captivating contest compels courageous competitors to step away from their familiar favorites and delve into diverse and daring heroes. Let the subtle shift in skill sets spark a spectacular showdown. Good luck, gamers. Alright, so I missed the recording for the first box fights and scraps. You'll see there's a bunch of freezing. So I'm going to use this moment to rant about Overwatch 2, rant about Blizzard, talk about all the different things that have gone on, of course, with the PvE cancellation, and different perspectives that I think I have in comparison to the average Overwatch player or average influencer. So this is going to be a random rant. Don't expect any cuts or changes or anything like that. This is just my perspective. Expect some mistakes. I'll try and go over them a few times here. Alright, so the biggest problem with Overwatch overall is the perspective. There is never going to be one perspective on what Overwatch is. For a lot of people within the core Overwatch community, the focus of the game is actually its competitive experience. The idea of becoming the best player you can be is what makes the game. But for a lot of other people, I'll point out a few perspectives here. For a lot of other people, Overwatch is a fun game with really cool abilities, with things that you can do with your friends, with stuff you can kind of mess around with for a few hours on the weekend, and just something you can enjoy. It's more of a carnival than a competitive experience. For a lot of other people, too, it is an incredible art piece. The way the heroes are designed, the way the levels are designed, the way the engine feels when you play it, the way the abilities look when somebody uses those abilities. Like, a lot of people do actually play the game just for those things. They go through a bunch of different games, they find one aesthetic they like, and Overwatch tends to be a very aesthetically pleasing game, a very good feeling game. I don't know if there's a more complicated way of saying that. So the question is then, what is Overwatch? And actually, we'll say one last perspective too, and there's actually quite a few other perspectives, but one is Overwatch is an investment. From the company's perspective, this is money in, money out. Is it worth our time? Is it worth the risk? Is it worth the PR? Is it worth the branding? Is it worth all these different things? The corporate perspective is something we actually have to consider, and we have to consider as a society in general. It's a part of being something in our world, because if something's not valuable, if a game is completely useless and nobody likes it, well, we shouldn't be funding it. So, but anyways, there's a perspective from the corporate side. Sorry, that's a little bit of a tangent. So what is Overwatch? Well, Overwatch, in its design, is all of these things. If you take a look at a hero like Mercy, and a lot of pro players really don't like Mercy.
What's a bucket?
It is the game developer's way of allowing a variety of different mindsets to have some type of impact on the battlefield. Excuse me, a little bit hiccup here. Woo. Now, one could say that for the competitive experience, that Mercy is not a very good character. Now, many may argue, but there's a general consensus, I guess, around in higher elos about what Mercy is. Obviously, there's some disagreement there, don't get me wrong. But that is only one perspective. That is not Overwatch, and that's why Blizzard will never remove, or they'll never want to remove, a hero like Mercy. They'll change her a little bit. They'll change the core of her, or the foundation of what she's supposed to do in a fight, but they'll never change the base feel, the look, the movement of the Mercy. Because a lot of people, again, that's what they play the game for. And you can't change that, or else you lose them. Now, of course, we have actually, in Overwatch history, we have lost almost every single group. So let's say you release Overwatch at the start, and you have a bunch of people that really like it. So you have a really huge range of people that will play the game. Well, I'm going to use more of a competitive example here, but let's say you start focusing Overwatch more on the DPS play, you're going to lose all the tanks and supports. They're going to stop playing. Then, let's say you swap it over to being more fun for the supports. Well, you're going to lose all your tanks and your DPS, and now they're actually not going to come back. if you start to sacrifice your gameplay for the competitive experience, then the people who are there for just the fun gameplay are going to leave. And then when you swap it back, you're not going to get those people back. People don't really like follow updates in terms of a game. They just leave and they come back whenever they feel like it. And if it matches how they play, then they'll play it again. So Blizzard is actually at a really hard, or in a really hard position, where if they tweak too hard for one person, they'll lose those people. If they tweak too hard for another, they'll also lose the other group. And they know this. This is probably the biggest reason why Overwatch PvE at its core was canceled from what it was supposed to be. It's because Blizzard really realized from a managerial perspective that they probably were focusing a little bit too much on one group of players instead of focusing on something that would profit them a lot more in another area. Now, we all know that. We all know that. And this is where I really have to say we shouldn't trust Blizzard. We shouldn't trust Activision in having the gamer in mind. Their structure, their company structure seems to be set up in such a way, and so do many others, but especially Blizzard Activision seem to be set up in such a way that is anti-consumer. They don't care at all about their product or their... Sorry, they don't care about their consumer-product relationship at all. All they care about is whether their product is selling, and they'll abandon certain markets for other markets as long as the market seems like it's bigger. Simple as that. And that's where Blizzard over time, too, has become a bit of a, like I say, a ship of Theseus, right? Where different parts of it have changed out so much to the point where it's optimizing for certain things that the vast community that eventually made the game, that liked the game. So let's just say, for example, we are... We want the competitive perspective guys to play with us. They focus too much on the competitive perspective, and they realize, oh no, we're missing actually out on the PvE perspective. So what happens is they swap and they hire and they do all sorts of changes to their company structure to make things for the PvE side, for the PvE group, for the PvE people. And then you lose out on all the PvP people that could be developing your game. And what's happened is they've switched back and forth so many times, or at least it seems like they've switched back and forth so many times, that nobody really knows what the game is anymore. Nobody knows who the game is for. They're trying to make a little bit more of an effort towards the average PvP online live service player. But it's still... They just pissed off a whole bunch of people while doing it. Now... Because of this, Blizzard, the entity itself, doesn't treat the people that follow their products very well. They'll abandon them. Simple as that. It's basically swapping one market for another. If they know that they can sell the game, and I'm going to just be a little conspiratorial here, right? Imagine, for example, they have a group of people that do love 6v6. But they realize that they can actually sell to a whole brand new market, abandon all the 6v6 lovers, and go for a 5v5 audience, which is really what they've done. Now, of course, a lot of the content creators and pros and stuff like that either abandon the game, and when basically Blizzard, you're abandoning us. Well, it's because they actually are. And I think there's a few people like Flats and SVB and a few others who have been talking about recently, like how Blizzard... Really how Blizzard just doesn't seem to care about them, and that's really true. Or even like doesn't care about how Blizzard seems to lie, but not really lie, because they will be... There's one group of developers that will say they want to do something, and then there's another group of developers that will say they want to do something, and they'll be given different levels of power in making this game, and different levels of like developer structures in making the game. So one group will promise one thing, then it'll swap to the next group who's in power, and they'll promise another thing, but those things will be counter to what they're trying to do, and it's not technically a lie because they didn't lie directly about what they wanted to do. There's just different groups of people with different skills and different managerial standards and all that kind of crazy stuff. So it actually, in that, you're never going to get a consistent response from the entity that is Blizzard Activision. You cannot trust. No way. And trust is a thing, is an idea of consistency, right? You cannot trust Blizzard Activision. It is simple as that. You can't even trust them as an investment because you don't know what they're going to do day to day. Now, of course, does that mean they're not going to make money? And if you want to put money into it, whatever, that's yours. That's totally on you, right? But Blizzard has shown, not just as individuals they can't be trusted, because there are some individuals inside Blizzard that can be trusted and that when they say something, they mean it. So you have to differentiate between somebody saying something that might actually mean it themselves versus Blizzard, the entity that is
I'm just trying to get a kill here.
that is lying or that is not being truthful in its entirety. You just really have to be aware about it. I don't really have a conclusion on that. It's frustrating, but it is the world that we live in. Other than that, guys, I really do hope that we end up having a healthy relationship with our games. I don't like playing one game forever for all times. I don't think that's a healthy way of playing with games. But other than that, guys, I'm running out of time here. GG's, thank you all so much for coming out. Of course, patreon.com/ScrubClub. This will be going up in the ScrubClub YouTube media channel, so go subscribe there. I will see you all same time, same place next week. Have a great one, everybody.
Yeah, bye-bye.